Helena Ridge, Colorado. A picturesque town nestled between sleepy hills and thick pine forests, where every neighbor knows your name and doors are rarely locked. It was on a Thursday night, cool, quiet, uneventful, that everything changed forever. The Carter family had returned home around 7:30 p.m. from their local church group's family fellowship night. Neighbors saw them smiling, laughing, carrying in grocery bags. A few waved to Mark Carter as he offered a slice of leftover chocolate cake to the teenager next door. Dana Carter was overheard reminding her twins, Ellie and Eden, to brush their teeth before bed. By 10 p.m. all lights were off. Silence settled in. By 3 a.m., all 7 members of the Carter family were dead. No gunshots. No screams. Number 911 calls. Just a house, still and cold. Mark Carter, 41, a retired firefighter known for organizing Little League games at the park. Dana Carter, 39, a school nurse beloved at Helena Ridge Elementary and a regular volunteer at the local women's shelter. Their 5 children, Kaylee, 16, the introverted artist, Trent, 13, an aspiring football star, Noah, 10, the class clown, and 6-year-old twins Ellie and Eden, were found tucked in bed. There were no signs of a struggle. No signs of trauma. Just a faint trace of white powder on each of their lips. Within 12 hours, Helena Ridge PD had sealed off the home and called in the FBI. It was clear this was no ordinary tragedy. The coroner's preliminary assessment raised more questions than it answered. All 7 bodies appeared untouched, undisturbed. There were no injuries. No petechial hemorrhaging. No signs of poisoning, at least not any common variety. For the first 48 hours, media speculation ran wild. Could it be carbon monoxide poisoning? Were the Carters part of a secret religious group? Could it have been a murder-suicide? On day 3, as authorities began examining every inch of the house, one detail shifted the entire trajectory of the case. A hidden camera, disguised in a bookshelf base facing the beds of the twins. When the footage was recovered and reviewed, agents were stunned. At 1:43 a.m., a tall figure, face obscured, moving deliberately, entered the home without tripping the alarm system. No windows or doors were forced open. They seemed to glide from room to room, stopping briefly at each vent. In the twins' room, the figure stood motionless for nearly 40 minutes, watching. Then calmly they left. Toxicology reports came back on day 6. The delay had raised eyebrows. The findings dropped jaws. The white substance found on the victim's lips was a compound derived from a military-grade nerve agent code named Theta-27. Officially, Theta-27 was decommissioned and destroyed in 1997 under the Chemical Weapons Convention. But someone had recreated it. The powder was odorless, tasteless, and undetectable using standard residential sensors. It was designed to evaporate quickly, leaving behind little trace. Theta-27 acted by targeting the respiratory system and paralytic nerves. Victims essentially fell asleep, suffocating without panic, pain, or signs of trauma. How did such a substance end up in a suburban home? Detectives focused on the people closest to the family. One name kept surfacing: Jeremiah Lance. Lance was a former military chemist who had served in classified bioweapons programs overseas. Discharged in 2016 for mental instability, he had settled in Helena Ridge and become a regular presence in the Carter household. He was mentoring Trent in football, often joined family dinners and helped with minor home repairs. But behind the friendly demeanor was darkness. Dana Carter's sister had been granted custody of Jeremiah's daughter following a bitter legal dispute. His visitation rights were revoked 6 months before the murders. When agents searched Lance's small home, they found disturbing evidence hidden beneath the floorboards. Pages of journal entries obsessing over balance, justice, and biochemical warfare. The most chilling entry read, "They took my child. I'll take theirs. Not in hate, in balance." 2 weeks after the murders, Lance was apprehended at a remote storage unit. Inside were dozens of vials containing Theta-27, blueprints of the Carter home, and extensive documentation of the family's daily routines. It was methodical, scientific, ruthless. In court, during arraignment, Lance shocked everyone. He confessed, but not just to the Carter killings. He claimed he wasn't acting alone. According to his statement, Theta-27 had not been destroyed. It had been quietly repurposed for domestic testing. And the Carters? They were collateral damage. A trial run. The government needed data, he said. They chose Helena Ridge for a reason. Agents returned to Lance's journals and found a cryptic coordinate string. The location pointed to a foreclosed property 80 miles away. There, investigators found a near-identical setup. Air vents tampered with, dead pets, and faint traces of Theta-27. But no human bodies. Just one message scratched into the concrete wall of the basement. Part 2 begins when they stop looking. This sparked national panic. If Lance wasn't working alone, how many others were involved? Were more tests coming? In the months that followed, additional locations surfaced. 3 more homes with signs of Theta-27 exposure, though no fatalities. The Justice Department launched an internal probe into military chemical stockpiles. Whistleblowers began to speak. A pattern emerged. The Carter family may not have been chosen at random. Dana Carter had recently joined a class action lawsuit against a federal contractor accused of toxic dumping near military bases. Mark Carter had testified in a firefighter lung disease case the year before. Suddenly, what seemed like a personal vendetta began to look like a cover-up. The house at the second set of coordinates was eerily silent. The air smelled of decay and chemical residue. Investigators in hazmat suits moved carefully, documenting every inch of the abandoned property. The message on the basement wall had been sprayed in red paint, jagged and erratic. Part 2 begins when they stop looking. But they never stopped. In the corner of the basement, they found a floorboard pried loose. Beneath it, a USB drive. Its contents? Terrifying. The drive contained a manifesto. 72 pages. Typed, annotated, paranoid. It outlined a shadow organization allegedly tied to the U.S. Department of Defense, referred to only as Vanguard. The manifesto claimed that Vanguard was conducting civilian tests of chemical warfare survivability using synthetic families, manufactured identities, implanted histories, all for the sake of data. It also named Jeremiah Lance, not as the orchestrator but as a contractor. A cog. Disposable. The Carter family, it insisted, was not real. But school records, birth certificates, home videos said otherwise. So which was the lie? FBI ordered a second round of forensic testing. The white powder previously identified as Theta-27 was now flagged as a variant, Theta-27b, a weaponized version designed for total metabolic shutdown without visible trauma. The victims' bodies showed signs of having been dosed with a precursor chemical days before their deaths, a kind of primer making them susceptible. They were being prepared. Slowly. Silently. But why? The USB also mentioned a name, Dr. Celeste Rames. She was a former DARPA scientist who vanished from public view in 2009. No death record. No recent sightings. But her patents, on aerosol dispersal mechanisms on synthetic biotoxins, were being cited in black-budget projects. Through a web of shell companies, a lab in rural Wyoming was tracked down. There, in cold storage, were sealed vials of Theta-27b. But the lab had been burned to the ground just 48 hours before agents arrived. Inside the ash? A single tag. Rames? At a nearby motel, agents discovered someone else who had been following the Carter case obsessively, a private investigator named Lena Rowe. She claimed she'd been hired by an anonymous whistleblower to trace a pattern of civilian deaths. Lena had photos. In 6 other states, similar families had died, different causes but always the same details. No signs of struggle. Always at night. Always a house of 5 or more. Always a chemical footprint. All ruled as natural or accidental deaths. She had built a map. At the center of that map, Helena Ridge. In prison, Jeremiah Lance agreed to one more interview. He was thinner now. Slower. Like a man drained. He confirmed Lena's story. Claimed Rames had recruited him through a secure server, promising his family would be returned to him if he cooperated. But he never saw them again. "You think this ends with me?" he asked, smiling. "There are others. Better than me. Worse." He said one more thing before the guards cut him off. "Watch the children. They always test on the children." The FBI ran facial recognition scans through decades of school yearbooks. In multiple states, different years they saw them. The twins. Ellie and Eden. Not always the same names, but always the same faces. A horrifying revelation emerged. These children weren't born. They were placed. Engineered? Cloned? Recycled? Records would show them as born in different cities, different years, yet they appeared together repeatedly across educational rosters. The Carters weren't just a target. They were part of the experiment. Using Lena's map, one final home was pinpointed, a farmhouse in Montana, purchased under a pseudonym linked to Dr. Rames. Agents raided it. Inside they found a family of 4, alive. Groggy. Sedated. In the basement, walls lined with medical monitors, brainwave charts, and a giant photo of the Carter family with the words, Control Group A scrawled over it. There was a hatch beneath the floor. It led to a tunnel. Empty. Clean. Recently used. And in that tunnel, a final recording device. The tape was short. Just 43 seconds. A woman's voice, calm, clipped. British accent. They know now. So we move again. Phase 2 begins in 60 days. Do not contact me. Do not return to Site Delta. Control Group A has been archived. Control Group B is active. Remove Lance. And then, the hum of a music box. The same lullaby. 7 dead. A compound that doesn't exist. A government that refuses to comment. A killer who claims he was a pawn. And families, plural, designed like chess pieces. The Carter murders may be closed. But the game is not over. And if what the tape says is true, the next family is already in place. 2 weeks after the tunnel raid in Montana, the Justice Echo podcast released a final, unauthorized episode. A leak. It opened with the same lullaby from the music box, followed by audio believed to be from Dr. Celeste Rames herself. Control Group B has already begun. They're inside the data. If you're hearing this, it's too late. Then silence. What followed was the most comprehensive leak of classified documents in recent memory. 4,209 files. Codenamed Shadow Protocol. A task force assembled in secret, consisting of FBI, NSA, and DoD cyberforensics, began reviewing the files. Shadow Protocol detailed a decentralized network of scientists, operatives, and behavioral engineers who embedded with test families across North America. Each control group was designed to observe how civilians responded to gradual chemical exposure, social stressors, and synthetic trauma. Each test ended in eradication. Control Group A, the Carters, was the most successful. Lena Rowe went dark. 2 weeks after sharing her map, she vanished from her safe house. Her car was found abandoned outside Spokane. Inside, a torn page from a children's storybook. The twins always smile when the wolves come. No signs of a struggle. No fingerprints. A week later, a live-streamed video appeared briefly on the dark web. It showed Lena bound and conscious. Behind her, a man in a gas mask. You don't expose the protocol. You become part of it. Then static. An encrypted forum connected to the leak led agents to a biotech conference in Berlin. There, under an alias, was a woman matching Rames' description. She slipped away before she could be apprehended. But she left something behind, a flash drive labeled Delta Reset. Inside, maps, schedules, genetic markers. The children weren't just test subjects. They were carriers. Modified DNA embedded with trace elements of Theta 27b. Wherever they went, exposure followed. The families weren't victims. They were delivery systems. The flash drive listed new coordinates. Dallas, Texas. A suburb. Quiet. Unassuming. A family of 6 had just moved in. Their records, like the Carters, were impeccable. Too impeccable. Agents posed as census workers. Inside the home, a music box on the mantle. Same lullaby. But this time they intervened. The family was extracted, quarantined, and slowly memories began to break. The parents weren't who they thought they were. The children had vivid dreams of different cities, different names. They were living lives that weren't theirs. A whistleblower inside DoD confirmed Vanguard's existence and initiated a full shutdown. Subpoenas were issued. Arrests made. Among the names, Dr. Celeste Rames, Jeremiah Lance, and 5 senior officials tied to DARPA. But Rames vanished again, this time seemingly for good. Jeremiah Lance was found dead in his cell. No signs of trauma. No footage. Just a message carved into the wall. Delta Reset, complete. Justice Echo aired a memorial for the Carter family. They were mourned as real, as victims. Their existence, whether manufactured or authentic, had touched lives. In Helena Ridge, a mural went up, 7 silhouettes beneath a night sky. But behind closed doors, the Justice Echo team received one final envelope. Inside, a single photograph. 2 young girls, smiling. Identical. Standing in front of a school bus. Dated 3 days ago. And on the back, scribbled in red ink, Control Group D. The photograph was authenticated. The girls in the image bore a near-perfect resemblance to Ellie and Eden Carter. Down to their bone structure, eye spacing, even a faint scar above one eyebrow. But the photo was new. Dated and geotagged from a school district in Maine. Control Group D had been activated. The Justice Echo team immediately contacted federal authorities. But when agents arrived at the school, the twins were gone. withdrawn just that morning. No forwarding address. No official record of their departure. But their school lockers had been emptied, save for one item, a drawing of a house. The Carter home. Burning. FBI analysts cross-referenced the twin girls with previous datasets from the Shadow Protocol files. A new term surfaced, the archive. The archive was a covert biobank project funded in the early 2000s, designed to clone or genetically engineer emotionally neutral children from pre-selected donor traits. Over 200 prototypes were produced. Most were never deployed. Some, like Ellie and Eden, were integrated into test groups. Others were unaccounted for. The current theory, control groups A through D were not isolated cases. They were rounds, calibration attempts, each family iteration refining how the archive subjects interacted with fabricated environments, and how long it took before trauma broke them. Weeks after her supposed execution, Lena Rowe resurfaced in Montreal. Disguised, paranoid but alive. She had escaped, but barely, freed by an ex-intelligence agent who believed the experiments had extended into Canadian territory. Lena now carried a hard drive, an alleged kill file, containing encryption keys to the final Shadow Protocol archive, stored offshore, location unknown. She offered to decrypt it under one condition. The Justice Echo team had to broadcast her findings uncensored. Justice Echo streamed Lena's decrypted files live. Millions watched. Documents revealed Vanguard was never officially sanctioned. It was a rogue collective within government infrastructure. Self-funded, autonomous, and globally active. More than 24 control groups had been confirmed across 5 countries. Most were deemed failures. Only 4 had reached full, environmental collapse. The term used to signify mass casualty without outside intervention. The Carters were the first to meet every benchmark. Their deaths were marked as a model termination. Lena's files also contained audio from a private conversation between Dr. Celeste Rames and a foreign buyer. "We don't test on people," Rames said. "We test on simulations that believe they're people." Her voice, calm, academic, described the Carter family as conscious constructs. Whether she meant it literally, as in artificial intelligence, or metaphorically, was unclear. But the documents proved one thing: Rames was still alive. And she had sold experimental protocols to biotech firms in Russia, China, and the UAE. A new project was underway. Codename, Neon Hearth. Using digital breadcrumbs and Lena's data, agents tracked Rames' newest location, a fortified estate in northern Iceland, operating as a private orphanage. They stormed it at dawn. Inside, 12 children, all appearing under the age of 10. Each had identical neurological implants, devices used to monitor emotional states in real time. In the control room, a final screen displayed 4 faces. Ellie, Eden. 2 new girls, identical again. The caption, Field Units Active, Group E. Justice Echo's podcast was shut down by federal order. Lena Rowe vanished again, her hard drive destroyed. No charges were filed against any current government official. Classified immunity was invoked. A formal statement said, "The United States does not conduct or condone experimentation on civilians." But online forums lit up. The mural in Helena Ridge was defaced, new names painted beside the Carters. And 1 month later, a private elementary school in Missouri received a package with no return address. Inside, a music box, still playing. And a note: "The test is never the end. It's the calibration before something real." The Carter murders weren't an end. They were an origin story. A proof of concept. Somewhere tonight, a family sits down to dinner, never knowing they've been chosen. Not because they're important, but because they're forgotten. Control Group A is archived. But the system? It's still watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more crime and amazing, thrilling stories.